Every cruise line changes menus from time to time, makes tweaks and whatnot, but Royal Caribbean is making a change this week that's got a lot of people's attentions, and not a lot of people are happy about it. Let's talk about what this change is and what it means to you up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and the next time you eat in the dining room, your menu might look a little bit different. Guests that are sailing on Symphony of the Seas have reported seeing a change in the main dining room menu layout, as well as a change to the lobster choice. The main dining room is a staple of cruise ship dining experience, primarily because, well, it's included with your cruise fare and open for dinner every night. Now, it was noted in a couple different places that the dinner menu has changed on Symphony of the Seas only. Essentially, in looking through the menu based on the Royal Caribbean app, the recurring items, known as the classic items, have been removed, such as spaghetti bolognese, chicken, the strip steak, etc. And then also on top of that, on the second formal night, the lobster tail is now listed as cold water Maine lobster, with a note that any additional lobster tails will cost extra. How much extra? $16.99 plus 18% gratuity. Now, prior to this change, the main dining room did not charge extra for more than one lobster tail on the second formal night. Another change is that the extra charge steak that was already on the menu was increased in price from $16.99 to $19.99. Now, we have to be clear. This change is limited to Symphony of the Seas currently. But like you, I want to know, why is Royal Caribbean making this change? Will it go to other ships in the fleet? What else is going on with this? So I reached out to Royal Caribbean for clarification on these changes. So here's what we know about the change. Right now, the dining room menu update is limited to Symphony of the Seas. And Royal Caribbean is adamant, and when I spoke to them, I can't explain in words more how adamant they are, that they'll be listening to guest feedback on board the ship for their opinions. So why did Royal Caribbean make this change? Well, it's really about the guest experience. Now, I know what you're thinking. All right, Matt, they're going to how does possibly making a smaller menu improve the guest experience? It sounds like a cost-cutting measure, and it probably is, at least to some extent. But what Royal Caribbean told me, for what it's worth, is that they really want to simplify the dining room menu to speed the service up. While there's no denying that there are less items on the menu than before, one of the top complaints I always hear about the dining room experience in general is how long the meals can take. Swiftness of service is what Royal Caribbean called it, because they think it's a focus they really want to harp on in the dining room. By having more consistency of what's being prepared in the kitchen, they can produce food faster. I mean, this is kind of logical, right? If you only have one item on the menu, it's not going to take you much time to prepare that item and get it ready to go in there. A more focused menu will hopefully translate to a faster kitchen without compromising the experience for guests. Now, Royal Caribbean was quick to point out that every night for dinner, there will still be a beef dish, a fish dish, a poultry dish, and a vegan option every night of the cruise. So it's not like you're going to have to pick and choose, is there actually something I'm going to eat in terms of, a beef option or a chicken option or whatnot. Now, I thought to myself, like many of you, okay, let's be real here. You can talk about speed, but is this really just about cutting costs? And Royal Caribbean said they're always looking for ways to improve the guest experience and reduce the lag that can occur during the meal. One night, there could be too much time between the appetizers and entrees, and while another night, the appetizers and entrees come immediately right after each other with no delay in between. Ultimately, Royal Caribbean said they're going to rely on guest feedback from people on Symphony of the Seas to determine how successful the change ends up being. Now, I asked about the lobster tail in the cold water Maine lobster. Is it maybe a larger serving size? Because the previous option for the lobster was always a little small, so that's why a lot of people wanted to order more than one, but I have not yet received a response to that. Now, Royal Caribbean's test comes at the same time that Carnival Cruise Line made some headlines recently for making some changes to their main dining room options, and that being, of course, cutting down how many entrees passengers can order over there. Now, whether that's related or coincidence, that's your choice over there. So what do I think about these changes, and what does this really mean for you? Number one, let's be clear, this is only for Symphony of the Seas right now as a test. Could this test go fleet-wide? Sure. If the changes are well received by guests on board, it absolutely has the potential for that to occur. The thing is, I have mixed feelings about this. On the surface, I agree with pretty much everybody who's been commenting on this story already, in that I'm not a fan of them removing options from the menu. I liked having those classic options there because there are some nights where I just wanted to have spaghetti or a piece of chicken or something that was like my fallback. I always looked at the classic options as the fallback, with the featured items being like, oh, maybe there's something more adventurous there. And again, not everybody's an adventurous eater. I don't consider myself a picky eater, but I also have my own limits that I have. And there are some nights in which I go to the main dining room for dinner and I'll only order the spaghetti bolognese off the classics menu and, maybe load up on appetizers or something like that. That's how I dine. Everybody dines differently. And I have no doubt in my mind that there at least is a cost-cutting measure that's part of the equation. I'm not saying they're doing it specifically for that. I do believe Royal Caribbean really does want to optimize the main dining room experience. So I applaud them for trying to do that. I'm not sure this is the way to do it because ultimately I do agree there is a problem when you go to the main dining room for dinner. I'll be the first to admit I have no idea if I'm about to sit down to a 60-minute meal, a 2-hour meal, or something else in between. It really does run the gamut. In fact, I would often tell people here on this channel that the first night of the cruise in the dining room is always slow. I don't know why, but it always is slow. And then usually night two, they speed it up. Maybe it's a reflection of the menu. Maybe it's a reflection of the nuances of the first day and people getting acclimated. I really don't know. I think it's also worth noting that in all my years of covering things with Royal Caribbean, it's not the first time that we've seen something reported online that everybody kind of freaks out about, and then in practice, it's not really that bad, or people kind of get used to it, or just realize that it's better than it sounds. Human beings do not like change. We like consistency. We like being able to look forward to the same things all the time. I am right up there with everybody that is there. And there have been many changes to Royal Caribbean over the years that some of which I've thought to myself, oh, geez, this is going to be an adjustment for me, and I don't like it personally, right? Number one, I would want to wait until I get aboard Symphony of the Seas to try it out. I think the fact that dinner in the main dining room can take, again, an hour or 2 hours is just going to be something that a lot of people are going to be turned off by. I recently did a poll on our Twitter feed to figure out what do people think should be the average time for dinner, because I wanted to illustrate the issue here that we're talking about, because one person's long dinner is another person's short dinner. So I really wanted to get a sense of, okay, well, how long should dinner take? So I gave people 4 options: 30 to 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or 120 minutes or longer. And as you might imagine, the results were all over the place. Now, 56% of the people, which was the majority, wanted 60 minutes as their dining time. I guarantee you there are people watching this video who, before I told you that number, would have preferred a 90-minute dinner time, or 120 minutes or longer, or 30 minutes. So, as you can see here on the screen, the results are kind of all over the place. And this illustrates to the point that if you think dinner is too long, or it's too short, or you think it's just right, there are plenty of others who disagree with you. That doesn't mean that you're wrong, or they're wrong, or I'm wrong. I'm never wrong. No, just kidding. I'm always wrong. But the point is that we all have different opinions about what dinner time should be. And for Royal Caribbean, they're trying to deal with all of this, right? Because they're getting messages from person A, B, C, and D, and they're telling them all different sorts of answers. And this Twitter poll is a microcosm, I think, of the issue that they're dealing with. So at the very least, if Royal Caribbean could get to a point where dinner in the main dining room is a little more consistent with how long it takes, I think people would really appreciate that. Whether they prefer it to be longer or shorter, different issue, but at least it'll be more predictable overall. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts about this? And would you be in favor of the main dining room being a little more predictable in terms of its time and being efficient? And what do you think of the menu changes? Keep it civil and let me know down there in the comments below. Some other Royal Caribbean news you should be aware of is that Royal Caribbean is going to build a new cruise terminal in Miami. Well, they're really going to replace a cruise terminal in Miami. So Royal Caribbean signed a new deal with the Port of Miami to expand its operations down there. This is pretty typical in the sense that, well, Royal Caribbean's had these deals with the Port of Miami for a while, and it encompasses a couple different things. Number one, they're going to promise the Port of Miami a certain amount of passengers that'll pass through there, which is important because every passenger that goes through a cruise terminal pays a fee. That's part of your taxes and fees, part of your cruise fare that they're going to see there. So more passengers equals more money for the port. Hey, they're happy about that. Also, Royal Caribbean is going to get a new terminal. They're going to construct a new Terminal G, which is going to be exclusively for Royal Caribbean's use. And Terminal G is one of the older cruise terminals in Miami. It's been used by Royal Caribbean these days pretty much when Terminal A is occupied. Now, Terminal A is that brand new cruise terminal that Royal Caribbean opened up in 2018, and it's been their primary cruise terminal ever since. If you're on an Oasis class ship in Miami, you've always gone to Terminal A. But if you've been on another Royal Caribbean ship where Terminal A is busy, then you've probably gone to Terminal G. So Terminal G will be completely new, redone, and only for Royal Caribbean. But in addition to that, Royal Caribbean is also going to share another brand new cruise terminal with MSC Cruises, and that will open in October of 2028. We don't have a date, by the way, of when Terminal G will open up. I didn't see a date in that announcement, but sometime before 2028. In addition, Royal Caribbean will also restart construction of its global headquarters. They had announced global headquarter construction for something that they wanted to redo their whole headquarters in Miami before the pandemic. They started building it, then the pandemic happened, and they hit the pause button because they needed to save their money. Well, things can now resume, and they'll be able to do that, so they're good to go. And lastly this week, something else you should know about is that Royal Caribbean has revealed its 2024 European cruise itineraries. That's right. So if you're looking for a summer 2024 cruise to Europe, you can start booking those already. There are 6 ships that'll be sailing to Europe in 2024. Royal Caribbean says 7. think one of them is a bit of a stretch. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, these new sailings are between May and October of 2024. And here's a breakdown of where the ships will be sailing from. Anthem of the Seas will sail from Southampton, UK, and offer cruises of various lengths to places in Spain, Portugal, Norway, and the Canary Islands. Explorer of the Seas will sail from Barcelona and Venice and offer cruises to primarily the Adriatic and Greek Isles. Jewel of the Seas will sail from Amsterdam and offer 11, 12, and 13 night cruises around the British Isles and Iceland. And there's a really cool itinerary on Jewel that will actually offer a 17-night Iceland and Greenland cruise. Oasis of the Seas will come back to Europe again, this time sailing from Barcelona and Rome, and offer Spain, France, and Italy cruises to the Western Mediterranean. Odyssey of the Seas, just like this year, is going to be offering cruises out of Rome to the Greek Isles and Holy Land cruises in Israel. And that leaves Voyager of the Seas will be sailing from Ravenna and Rome, Barcelona and Athens, Greece on 7-night sailings to Greece, the Western Mediterranean, Egypt, and Israel. Now that leaves us with Serenade of the Seas, which Royal Caribbean included in this, but it's a little bit of marketing if you ask me. Serenade of the Seas is going to sail from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and Barcelona as it participates in the World Cruise. 2 segments of the 274-night World Tour will include European stops. The Ultimate Middle East and Med Cruise begins in Dubai and will visit Greece, Turkey, Croatia, and more along the way before reaching Rome. And then, when you get there, then you got places to go to Barcelona, Spain, Ireland, France, and more. So I say it's kind of a stretch because the World Cruise is not necessarily a cruise that you're probably going to be booking as part of the 2024 release, but they included it here because it actually happens in 2024. So there you go. Now, you might be wondering, why am I planning a cruise for 2 years from now here in 2022? And the reason is it can save you a lot of money. Thinking about booking a cruise a year and a half away may seem excessive, but truly it's one of the best ways to get the best price on a cruise. Generally speaking, the lowest prices for cruises are available when new itineraries are released, such as these Europe 2024 sailings. And over time, you'll notice the prices are going to go up and as more cabins are booked up. So if you're interested in a suite, really, it's super important to book early because those cabins really jump in price and they sell out quite quickly. Besides cost savings, booking early also ensures you get the exact cabin that you want. A lot of cruise fans gobble up the most desirable cabins when sailings hit the market, such as suites, extra large balconies, and other unique rooms. And one more thing we got to talk about because it kind of came over my desk as I was recording this, and that is the 2022 Black Friday cruise deals have been released by Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean is offering up to $600 and 30% off every cruise and kids sail free as part of its Black Friday offer, which begins today, November 18th, unless you're watching this video later in the weekend, in which case it's no longer today. But nonetheless, it's still applicable and it's going to go through basically all of Thanksgiving week into Cyber Monday. They'll change the name all the time. It's the same sale, and they've even said that. Equally important, there will also be a cruise planner sale as well that you can look forward to that begins also on Friday. But the most important thing here is not to say that I told you so, but I did tell you so in another video, that waiting for Black Friday is always a mistake. Whether or not Black Friday sale or any Royal Caribbean sale saves you money always remains to be seen. I mean, it could, but your best bet in general, whether you're watching this video today or next year, is to never wait for a particular sale in order to book a cruise. You want to book as early as you can. It's always the best strategy. And if you live in a country like the US or Canada or some other countries in which you can reprice your cruises, sorry, UK residents, well, then it's really beneficial to you to book super early and then reprice all the way up until final payment date. There you go. There's the big news of this week in Royal Caribbean. Let me know in the comments below which news really stood out to you. I'm sure we're going to be talking about the dining changes more than anything, but looking forward to hearing your comments on there. Keep it civil. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.